The man on the crate lifted the paper high like it was a trophy. 10 years service. Clean contract. Who'll start at 20? The heat inside the canvas tent felt like a hand around the throat. Dust floated in the shafts of light. Boots scraped. Coins clinked. A young woman stood on a stack of feed boxes, wrists tied, chin lifted, eyes fixed on a tear, in the tent wall as if she could step through it and disappear. From the back, a tall rancher watched her hands tremble, and he had come for barbed wire. Instead, he was staring at a choice that would follow him for the rest of his life. 50, someone barked. The rancher's jaw tightened. Then he stepped forward. 100. Silence fell like a gunshot. The town of Red Hollow baked under a sky the color of brass. Wind carried the taste of dry sage and cattle. Behind the stockyards, men had gathered for what they called business. But it was not cattle being sold. It was hope. Now, the woman's name was Sarah Whitmore. She was 23, though fear had carved years into her face. Her once yellow dress was faded to the color of dust. A bruise bloomed along her collarbone like spilled ink. She did not cry. She did not plead. She simply waited for the worst. The auctioneer squinted at the rancher. 100 from the gentleman. Do I hear 110? No one answered. The men shifted. $100 was the price of a strong horse, and it was more than most of them earned in months. Sold, the auctioneer said, slapping his palm on the crate. The rancher walked forward through the eyes that burned holes in his back. He placed 10 gold coins on the wood. He took the paper without reading it. When he looked up, Sarah finally met his gaze. Her eyes were gray, storm gray, and empty. Let's go, he said quietly. His name was Cole Turner. He owned a small ranch along the Broken Mesa Range, where the prairie rolled into low red hills. He drove his wagon out of Red Hollow with Sarah seated beside him, her hands free now but folded tight in her lap. They rode in silence for miles. Dust trailed behind them like smoke. The town shrank into the horizon. The open land swallowed it whole. At last she spoke. "You've paid for me," she said, her voice dry as splintered wood. "Just do it." The word struck him harder than any fist, and he pulled the horses to a stop beside an old stone well that marked the edge of the open range. Wind creaked the wooden pump. The prairie stretched wide and lonely around them. Cole climbed down slowly. He stood there for a long moment, dust curling around his boots, trying to steady the anger rising in his chest. Not at her. Never at her. At what had been done to her. He walked to her side of the wagon. She flinched when his hands reached for her waist, her eyes shut tight, bracing, and he lifted her down gently and stepped back at once, leaving space between them. "There's water," he said. He worked the pump until clear, cold water spilled into the basin. He rinsed a tin cup and held it out. She stared at him, confused. Then she took it. Her hand shook as she drank. Water ran down her chin and soaked her dress. She drank like someone who had forgotten the taste of mercy. When she finished, she handed the cup back, watching him carefully. "I didn't buy that paper for what you think," Cole said. His voice was rough but steady. "I bought it so no one else could." She did not answer. "You're safe," he added. The word hung in the air, strange and fragile. They reached his ranch at sunset. The cabin stood sturdy and plain, built from pine logs. A wide porch faced the open fields. A small corral held 3 horses. The scent of clean earth replaced the stink of Red Hollow. Cole tended to the team while Sarah stood near the wagon, and unsure where she belonged. When he finished, he pointed to the porch bench. "Sit. I'll make coffee." The smell of it soon filled the evening air, rich and warm. He handed her a mug and leaned against a post, keeping distance. The silence this time was different. Not fear, not yet trust. Something in between. Night came slow over the prairie. Stars pricked through deep blue. Crickets began their steady song. Sarah held the mug in both hands as if it might vanish. At dawn came red and sharp. Cole was already awake, frying bacon over the small stove. When Sarah stepped from the tiny spare room he had given her, a plate waited on the table. She ate in silence. After breakfast, he led her not to the house, but to the corral. "You'll need to know this," he said, handing her a rope. He showed her how to tie it a bowline knot. Slow, patient. Again and again until her fingers found the rhythm. "It won't slip," he said. "Now you can trust it." The words meant more than rope. He showed her how to wrap a wounded hand, how to stand calm before a nervous colt, how to breathe steady so an animal would trust her scent. "They feel fear," he murmured, resting a hand on a young mare's neck. "Stay calm inside and they'll follow." Sarah watched the mare lower her head. She tried. Her first touch was hesitant. The mare flinched. Sarah swallowed and tried again, breathing slow. The animal's ears eased, its head dipped, and a flicker of something returned to her eyes. Not fear, not yet hope, but something close. Days passed. She swept floors, mended sacks, walked the fence line. Her steps grew firmer. Cole's cabin spoke of quiet order. Books lined a shelf. Tools hung neat. At the foot of his bed sat a heavy iron chest. All was locked. One afternoon, she saw him open it. Inside lay a tarnished, star-shaped badge. He shut the lid quickly when he noticed her watching. His face closed like a door, and she did not ask. News reached them a week later. Cole rode into Red Hollow for supplies. When he returned, his jaw was tight. "There's a gang moving contracts across counties," he said, "led by a man named Nathan Crow. They deal in people." Sarah's fingers froze around her sewing needle. "The deputy's involved," Cole added. "Name's Milton Graves." The room felt smaller. That night, Cole placed the bill of sale on the table between them. He did not burn it. He looked at it like a wound. "We'll undo this the right way," he said. Sarah stared at the paper that had claimed her life. For the first time, she did not feel like paper. She felt like fire waiting for air. Cole rode back into Red Hollow the next morning with the bill of sale folded inside his jacket. Sarah stayed at the ranch. She tried to act normal. She fed the chickens. She swept the porch. She patched a tear in a burlap sack with small, careful stitches. But every time the wind shifted, she froze, listening for hoofbeats that were not there. Near sunset, Cole returned with flour and salt, and a hard look in his eyes. "The clerk won't file anything," he said. Sarah stood by the table. Why?" Cole set the supplies down. "Because the law is dirty." He told her what he had seen. The courthouse was a dry little building that smelled like paper and old lies. The clerk had taken one look at the contract and slid it back without meeting Cole's eyes. He had said the justice of the peace was out on circuit. He had said Red Hollow had no authority. He had smiled like a man who knew he was protected. Cole had walked out and sat in the Old Barrel Saloon, and where men talked too loud and listened even harder. "And I heard a name," Cole said. Sarah's shoulders tightened. "Who?" "Milton Graves," Cole said. "Deputy Graves, he's the shield. He rides the road that gang uses. He's always patrolling when their wagons roll through." Sarah swallowed. Cole kept going. "And another name. Nathan Crow. He's the one running the contracts." Sarah's hands clenched. The needle in her fingers pricked her skin. She barely felt it. That night, the wind rose, and it hissed through the grass like something alive. Sarah sat on the porch step with her mug of coffee. Cole leaned against the post near the door. He did not hover, but he stayed close enough that she could feel him there. "They'll come back," she said. It was not a question. Cole stared into the dark. "Then we'll be ready." He went inside and came back with his rifle. He didn't point it. He simply set it by the door where it could be reached fast. The next day, Sarah found proof that the danger had a shape. Cole had left early to mend fence posts. Sarah walked to the corral to check the mare's water. A traveling teamster rolled up the road, stopping to ask for a drink. Sarah saw his hand on the bucket handle. A thick scar curled along his knuckles, shaped like a hook. Her breath stopped. Memory slammed into her like a door. That hand had yanked her from her father's granary. That scar had been inches from her face when she screamed. And she backed away so fast her heel hit a stone and she stumbled. The teamster turned his head, eyes narrowing. Sarah forced herself to look away and kept walking, as if she had only been startled by the horse. When Cole returned, she told him. Quiet, fast, trembling. Cole's face went still. "We won't fight in the open," he said. "Not yet." That night, he took the bill of sale back out and studied it under lamplight. Sarah watched from the edge of the room. Cole turned the paper over. There," he said. Pressed into the back was a faint mark, a thorny vine wrapped around a broken spur, a brand, a way to track inventory. Cole copied it onto a scrap of leather, his pencil moving slow and sure. Then they heard the soft scrape on the porch. Cole's hand went to the rifle. He opened the door. A small package sat on the step. No name, no sign, just twine. Cole cut it open and unfolded what was inside. A hand-drawn map. It showed a place called Split Cedar Canyon, and a maze of red rock and shadow a day's ride south. A black X sat near a narrow bend. 2 words were written beside it, "Gold for goods." And at the bottom, a message. "Ask for the schoolteacher at Mesa Mercy Mission." Cole stared at the paper until the lantern flame flickered. "It's either a trap," he said, "or someone's trying to help." Sarah looked at the X, her stomach twisted. "I want to go," she said. Cole's eyes lifted to her face. He did not say no. He did not say yes, and he simply nodded once, like a man accepting a hard job. 2 days later, they rode out. The mission sat low and white against the prairie, built of adobe, with a small bell tower. The schoolhouse was a square room with 1 window and a chalkboard. Inside, a woman stood at a desk. She wore plain clothes, hair pinned tight, eyes sharp as cut glass. "I'm looking for the teacher," Cole said. "I'm the teacher," she replied. "Name's Evelyn Shaw." Cole set the bill of sale on the desk, and Evelyn did not flinch. She did not gasp. She ran her finger over the ink, then over the faint brand on the back. "I've been watching this mark for 2 years," she said. Cole's gaze narrowed. "Watching how?" Evelyn reached into a drawer and pulled out a small metal badge. Not a sheriff badge, something smaller, cleaner. "Pinkerton," she said. Sarah's heart thudded. Evelyn looked at Sarah not with pity, but with respect. "This paper matters. But paper alone won't hang a man like Crow. But you need proof of that breathes." Sarah knew what she meant. A witness, her. On the ride home, the world felt heavier. At dusk, they sat on the porch again. Wind moved the grass in long waves. The sky burned orange at the horizon. Cole's hands gripped his mug until his knuckles turned pale. "I need to tell you something," he said. Sarah waited. Cole nodded toward the iron chest inside. "I wasn't always a rancher," he said. "I wore a badge once." He didn't smile when he said it. "I rode with the Rangers down in Cimarron territory," he went on, voice low. We tracked raiders, thieves, men who hurt families and vanish into the open land. Sarah watched his face as he spoke, the hard control, the hurt under it. We got a report about a homestead, Cole said. A family. We rode hard. 2 days. We were too late. He stopped, swallowed. I found a child's doll in the dirt, he said, and the house still smoking. Sarah's throat tightened. I quit after that, Cole said. I locked that badge away because it felt like a brand, like failure. He turned to her then, eyes steady. When I saw you on those crates, he said, it felt like the land was giving me one more chance, a chance to not be too late. Sarah did not speak. She reached for her mug with both hands so he would not see them shake. In the quiet between them, something changed. Not romance, not yet. Something deeper. Two wounded people recognizing each other. And the next morning, Evelyn Shaw rode to the ranch. She came dressed like a teacher on a lesson trip, a satchel on her saddle, a calm face. The three of them sat at the table with the map and the bill of sale laid flat. Evelyn tapped the X on the canyon map. Crow moves his contracts like cattle, she said. Always trading, always shifting. He believes he's untouchable because men like Deputy Graves protect him. Cole's eyes hardened. And so we pull him out from under that shield. Evelyn nodded once. We leak a rumor. Sarah's pulse quickened. Evelyn looked straight at her. We tell the right ears that Cole Turner regrets buying you, that you're trouble, that he's willing to sell the contract back at a discount. Sarah's mouth went dry. Cole's chair creaked as he leaned forward. No, Evelyn held up a hand. I'm not asking you to decide for her. Cole turned to Sarah, face tight with struggle. He didn't want to use her. But he also knew hiding was slow surrender. Sarah met his gaze and felt the old fear try to rise. Then she remembered she had the bowline knot in her hands, the mare's breath warming her palm. The moment she calmed the calf by the creek, she was not a thing anymore. I'll be the bait, she said. Her voice was quiet, but it didn't shake. Evelyn's eyes softened, just a little. Then we do it smart. Cole's jaw worked. He looked like a man swallowing fire. Finally he nodded, once, sharp. And outside the wind picked up again, pushing across the prairie like a warning. And far off, where the land dropped into low red hills, a hawk screamed into the sky. Sarah felt it in her bones. The trap was set. Now they had to survive it. Cole planted the rumor like a dirty seed. He let it slip at the livery stable in Red Hollow. He said it like he hated saying it, loud enough for the right ears to hear. I made a mistake, he told a wagon man. That woman's nothing but trouble. I'll sell the contract back, cheap. I just want it gone. The words tasted like ash. By nightfall, the story was in the Old Barrel Saloon. By morning, it was everywhere. Men laughed. Men guessed. Men watched the road like coyotes. And then Deputy Milton Graves leaned against the bar with a slow smile that never reached his eyes. 2 nights later, a storm rolled in from the Broken Mesa Range. It wasn't gentle rain. It was hard sheets of water and thunder that shook the ground. Lightning cut the prairie in white flashes. Wind screamed through Juniper Pass like a warning. Cole and Sarah rode into the pass right on time. Sarah wore Cole's oilskin coat with the hood pulled low. She sat slumped in the saddle and playing the part of a broken woman being taken back. But under the coat, her body was tight and ready. Evelyn Shaw and 2 of her men waited farther down the pass in the dark. They had rifles and a plan, but plans always broke when fear showed up. The ambush came fast. Gunshots snapped out of the rain. Muzzle flashes flared like orange sparks in the black. A bullet struck rock near Sarah's horse, and the animal screamed and reared. "Down!" Cole shouted. He dragged Sarah's reins, and forcing her horse behind a boulder, he shoved her low and took his rifle. Shots slammed into stone. Chips flew. Sarah covered her head and tried not to shake. Then a sharp whistle cut through the storm. 3 short blasts. Evelyn's signal. Gunfire erupted from the side ridge. The ambushers yelled. Horses squealed. The pass became chaos in lightning flashes. And then a new rider burst through the rain. "Hold your fire!" a man bellowed. "Ah, this is the law." Deputy Milton Graves rode into the fight with his badge shining wet in the lightning. He fired his pistol into the air like he owned the storm. For a heartbeat, the shooting slowed. Cole's gut went cold. Graves wasn't here to stop anything. He was here to take Sarah. Graves rode straight toward Cole's boulder. 2 men moved with him, faces hidden under hats. Graves reached down and grabbed Sarah's arm hard. "You're coming with me," he snarled. "I'm protective custody." Sarah's breath caught. Old fear tried to swallow her. Cole stood, rifle leveled. "Let her go." Graves laughed and shoved Sarah toward one of the men. "Don't be a fool, Turner." Then Graves lifted his pistol and fired toward the ridge where Evelyn's men hid. It wasn't a warning. It was a shot meant to kill a witness. Everything inside Cole snapped into clear purpose. He could not win this head-on. Not in the open. Not with the law pretending to be clean. And in a lightning flash, he saw a herd of longhorn cattle huddled high on the slope above the pass. A desperate idea took shape. Cole swung into his saddle and charged uphill through mud and rock. His horse fought for footing. Rain soaked his face. He reached the herd and fired 2 shots into the air behind them. The cattle exploded into a stampede. A wall of horn and muscle thundered down the slope, roaring into the narrow pass. Graves and his men turned too late. The stampede hit like a flood. Horses screamed. Men were thrown. The pass filled with panic and pounding hooves. In the confusion, Sarah was ripped away from the man holding her. She stumbled, fell, then crawled toward the sagebrush. As she moved, she tore a small bone button from her coat and dropped it into the dirt, a silent marker. A way for Cole to follow her. Through the stampede, Cole spotted a rider grabbing Sarah again. Not Graves this time. A lean man with hard eyes. Nathan Crow. Crow yanked Sarah onto his horse and pushed toward the far end of the pass, where a rickety bridge crossed a rain-swollen gorge. Cole pushed through the last cattle and chased. Rain turned the bridge planks slick. The gorge below roared like an angry river of stones. Cole caught up at the entrance. "Crow!" he shouted. Crow spun, rage twisted on his face. He tried to fire, but the wet powder made the pistol click useless. He threw it down and pulled a knife. "Hot, you want her?" Crow snarled. "Come take her." Cole dismounted. He and Crow collided on the bridge, fists and shoulders crashing. The bridge groaned under them. Sarah scrambled back, breath sharp, eyes wide. A loud crack snapped through the storm. A support beam splintered. The planks gave way. Cole and Crow fell. Cole caught the edge with both hands. His boots kicked over empty air. His grip slipped on wet wood. Crow dropped farther, catching on roots clinging to the gorge wall. And he hung there, stunned but alive. Sarah did not freeze. She ran to Cole's horse and grabbed the lariat. Her fingers shook, but her mind stayed clear. The bowline knot. A knot you can trust your life to. She tied it fast. Perfect. "Cole!" she screamed. She swung the rope and threw. The loop landed over his shoulders. "Hold on!" she cried. Cole jammed his arms through it. Sarah braced her feet in mud and pulled with everything she had. She was not strong enough to lift him alone, but she was strong enough to anchor him. Cole found a foothold, climbed hand over hand, and rolled onto the safe side of the bridge, gasping. He looked down. Crow was already climbing down the roots, slipping into the gorge shadows. Then he was gone. Evelyn appeared moments later, soaked and grim, with 2 captured men bound at the wrists. "Graves got away too," she said. "But we got something better." One of the prisoners, shaking with fear, finally broke when Evelyn leaned close. "Crow's moving his contracts at sunrise," the man stammered. "Black Iron Station. 8 o'clock freight. He's got a private car." Sarah stood there, rain on her face, mud on her hands, fire in her eyes. "No more hiding," she said. "We finish this at the station." At Black Iron Station, morning heat already rose off the rails. It was a bare platform, a water tower, and a small office. The smell of hot metal and creosote hung in the air. Evelyn hid inside the office with the station master. Cole waited behind the water tower. 2 Pinkerton men lay low near the freight yard. Sarah walked onto the platform alone. She wore her faded dress again. She bowed her head like she had lost. Crow arrived in a buckboard with a sack of coins. An anxious man beside him hugged a thick ledger to his chest. Deputy Graves arrived next with 4 armed men dressed like escorts. Graves called out loudly, "This transfer will be done legal and clean." Crow grinned. "Ye all above board." The train whistle sounded in the distance. The air felt tight, like it might break. Crow signed a false name on a clipboard Graves held out. The sack of coins clinked heavy as Crow set it down. Inside the office, the station master tapped a telegraph key fast. A clean, timed record. Names, faces, actions. A wire of truth running straight to a judge miles away. Outside, Graves lifted his hand. "Escort the woman." He reached for Sarah's arm. And that was the moment Evelyn needed. Cole gave a small signal. A stable hand shoved a line of stubborn pack mules onto the platform. The mules brayed and surged. Salt sacks burst. White crystals spilled across the boards. Men shouted and jumped back. In the chaos, Evelyn moved like a shadow. She stepped out, grabbed the ledger from the anxious man, and snapped cuffs onto his wrist. "Pinkerton Agency," she said. Crow saw the badge. He saw his ledger in her hands. His face drained. "Yeah, go!" he screamed at the engineer. "Go now!" The train began to pull forward. Graves lunged to grab Sarah, desperate to save something. Sarah drove her elbow into his gut and twisted free. Crow scrambled toward the private car. Sarah ran to the coupling between cars. Her hands grabbed the heavy iron pin. She pulled. The metal shrieked. The cars separated. The private car slowed hard while the engine pulled away with the freight. Sarah leaped back to the platform, landing on her feet. She stood tall with the iron pin in her hand like it was a weapon. The crowd that had gathered from Red Hollow stared. Graves's face went wild. He drew his pistol and aimed at Sarah. Cole moved without thinking. And he shoved Sarah behind him. The shot cracked. The bullet grazed Cole's arm, burning hot through cloth and skin. The crowd gasped. Graves looked at Cole's blood, then at the furious faces around him. He ran. He ran down the street like a man chased by his own sins. That was the end of his badge. By afternoon, Crow was in chains, too. The ledger was real evidence. The telegraph record matched the minute. Evelyn had witnesses. And Sarah stood in a courtroom with her head high. And she told the judge how the contracts were forced, stamped, and sold. She told it plain. No tears, no begging, truth only. The verdict came fast. Milton Graves was sentenced to hard labor for abusing public power. Nathan Crow was sentenced for trafficking human lives. When the judge handed Sarah a clean document with a red wax seal, her fingers trembled. "This court declares you free," the judge said. "Not property, not cargo. A free woman." Sarah stepped outside into sunlight. and Cole waited in the square, his arm bandaged. The town watched her walk to him. She held the paper up between them. "You paid," she said softly, echoing her first words by the old well. Then she looked straight at him. "Now do what must be done." Cole's face changed like sunrise. He dropped to one knee in the dust. "I'm not asking to own you," he said, voice thick. "I'm asking to stand beside you, as your partner, as your equal, as your husband." He took her hand carefully, like it was sacred. "Sarah Whitmore, will you marry me?" For a breath, the whole town went quiet. Then Sarah smiled, bright and sure. "Yes," she said. Cole stood and kissed her gently, right there in the open, where everyone could see the difference between taking and choosing. Evelyn watched from the edge of the crowd with a small, satisfied nod. Then she turned and walked away like a ghost of justice, leaving them to their peace. That evening, back at the ranch, Cole carried the iron chest onto the porch. He unlocked it and stared at the old badge inside. He didn't hide it anymore. He set it on the railing, let the sunset touch it, and breathed out like a man finally free of an old failure. Sarah stepped beside him and took his hand. The prairie wind moved soft through the burnt grass, and for once, it didn't sound like danger. It sounded like a future. If you love Wild West stories filled with passion and heart, like this video and subscribe to Wild West Tales of Love for new stories every single day.